Indian Classical Guitar Academy. My name is Jack Jennings. A lot of students ask me about what guitar they should buy for playing Indian classical music, or how they should set it up and what kind of amp they should be using. So gear is really personal preference, but I really like to use a Strat for this. I've always really been a Strat player, but I find that it works particularly well for this sort of new style of guitar playing. The thing I really like about it is that, particularly using the neck pickup on a Strat, has that kind of natural, almost acoustic quality to it. So if I play the strings, you can hear the tone of the string, you can kind of get an impression of the string vibrating, and those natural harmonics are there, and it blends a lot better, I find, with acoustic instruments like the tabla, for example, or just other stringed instruments in Indian classical music. It just blends in a lot more. I do always try to go for a sort of warm tone on the Strat, but it still needs to have that kind of brightness, that brilliance, because when you play with acoustic instruments, they just have much more of that natural high end, all those natural harmonics are coming through. So that's really what I look for. So this is a Tokai Gold Star, which is made in 1982, of those of you who might be interested. And it's really modelled after a 50s Strat, vintage Strat, even the way that the pickups are wound and everything. I've had some modifications that might make it look as if something special is going on. These are just to have different pickup configurations, or this is a Seymour Duncan hot rail. But I always just use the neck pickup for this style. I just think that that gets the most natural, warm, balanced sound. And if you think about it in terms of string tone, as if it was an acoustic instrument being mic'd, this particular pickup, that's closer to the middle of the strings, so I think that that's getting more just the natural sound of the string. The way that you listen to a guitar when it's unplugged, if you just turn the volume down on your guitar and play, you're hearing just the natural resonance of that instrument, the acoustic properties of the instrument. And I always find that the neck pickup is actually then the closest your representation of that once you plug the guitar in. And I've always just got the tone all the way up as well. I do try to modify the sound a bit. There's another video I've got about the amp that I'm using. It's just a Roland Cube Street, it's a really simple amp, but just the way that I set that, and a few pedals that I use that are really not doing much, but they're just very subtly adding a bit of colour and a bit of depth to the sound. So really the Fender Strat, or some kind of Strat copy, is the most widely available guitar, and I also just think it's probably better than an Ibanez or a Gibson, or any other guitar in the market, like a jazz guitar or anything. I think this is actually the simple thing and the best thing for this. Something that's really important is that I tune the guitar differently with the Shakir strings. So these are really high gauge 8 E strings, but they're replacing the low 2 strings, the bottom E and A, and then they're just tuned to D, because we're playing the key of D often with Indian classical music. And something that I do is put all of the springs in the back, or you can block the trem, but this is really important because we do a lot of open strings and then string bending on top of that, and if the bridge is floating, every time that you bend the string, it sort of pulls the bridge up and the open strings will drop in pitch. So every time you do a string bend, your open strings you'll hear them dipping down and going out of tune. So you really need to block the trem, or just put in all the springs and tighten them up so the bridge is secure. And apart from that, you're just ready to go, really. I do have larger frets on this. It's got stainless steel frets that really help with the bending. That's really when you start to do more extreme bending and you need that kind of range. Okay, so if you're a beginner, you just don't need to worry about the frets so much, because you're not going to be doing huge bends like that in the beginning. But once you become a bit more advanced with your bending, you might want to have different frets. So that's pretty much everything in terms of the guitar. And in terms of amp, what I'm using right now, which some of you might have noticed, is that I'm using this Roland headphone amp. It's plugged into my Roland Cube. I'm not sponsored by Roland, although I wish I was, that would be quite nice. I've actually got it plugged into the auxiliary in, so I'm not using any of the processing amp pre, there's no effects coming from the amp, it's all just this. And you can just plug this straight into a hi-fi and it sounds really good. It's got some reverb on there, which is quite luscious as well, so that's quite good for this kind of style. And it's got overdrive and one or two other effects just for a bit of fun. But the clean sound, it's a decent sound, I thought I would just use it in this video and see if anyone would just notice from the beginning. I think it sounds like a pretty good. I've used this sometimes just on an Instagram video or something when I'm playing downstairs, and people still say, hey, that's a good tone. So, this is just very cheap, very affordable. So obviously having a proper amp is really nice, but if you're on a budget, then this is great. This is really good. You can use it with headphones or just plug it into the stereo. And you can also plug a phone or an iPad or an iPod or something into another input, and then you can have maybe the Tabla app or a backing track playing through this and then through your amp or hi-fi. So if you're jamming along with something, then you don't have to have two hi-fis in order to then play along the backing track. So I find that's a clever thing that they've included. So yeah, this is it really. I would just get yourself a Strat guitar, a bit of modification just to block the trem, and you can restring it with the Shakir strings. A bit later on you might want to modify getting thicker frets. And there is another video which I'll put a link to where I talk about my amp and the pedals that I use for those of you who might want to invest a bit more. But that's really just the icing on the cake. It's really just a little something I do to try and juice up the sound a little bit more. And yeah, that's kind of all you need really. It's just a very simple setup, and then it's just all about how you play and how you approach the music. So in terms of how you play and how you approach it, something that's been really helpful for some of my students is joining the Academy sessions on Zoom, where we have small groups and we go through a lot of details about how to improvise. And these are students who have access to all of the online courses through their subscription, and then after practicing these different compositions and exercises, I then take them further into that through the Zoom sessions and coach them on how to improvise, how to implement all the skills that they're learning. So these are really small groups and there's lots of time for personal feedback, and we just go into a lot more depth about all of the different stages of learning this music and the performance aspects of it as well. So there's just one space. I've got two groups and each group has just one space left. So I'll have the dates flashing up on the screen here so you guys can see when they're starting. There's a new group every month, but they are filling up pretty quickly, and then people tend to stick around. So pretty soon the groups will probably be completely full. So get in touch if you'd like to join one of these groups, and I look forward to seeing you on another video. Bye. If you want to start one of these courses, you can buy them individually or you can subscribe monthly to access all of them. For subscribers, there will be new content every month, including live streams where we can answer your personal questions and go into more detail about applying this material. So far we've covered Rag Yaman, Rag Bageshri, Jog, Hamsadwani, Kafi, and Rag Malkons, and there's much more to come. This body of work is a culmination of the 18 years experience I have as a guitar teacher, combined with the knowledge acquired through studying the sitar directly, and then adapting that material using the guitar techniques that suit this style best. To create these courses and gather the most authentic material possible, I work closely with other Indian classical musicians such as Manish Pingle and Gurdeng Riot. I'd like to give a special thanks to my guru Roopa Panesar, who has guided me in the creation of these courses. Much of the material has been adapted directly from my training with her. Also Shakir Khan, my guru, who's been inspiring me immensely and continues to shape how I approach the instrument and this incredible world of Indian classical music. So come and join us at the Indian Classical Guitar Academy to start this journey. The first 50 subscribers will get a reduced price every month for the whole duration of their membership. So come and be one of the first guitar players to realise what it means to be an Indian classical musician. I'm pleased to say that 5% of the profit taken from these online courses will go directly to a charity in India to help relieve the COVID pandemic that's happening there. So it's good to know that we can do at least something to help. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope to see you on one of these courses.